By a show of hands, how many of you played travel sports when you were growing up? If you're one of those families, you know how much fun that is, how expensive perhaps that is, and how it can take over most of your weekends. Well, as a second-year alderman in the city of Edwardsville, as a former baseball mom, and the initiator of the Edwardsville Tourism Advisory Council, I've been very interested in the impact of tourism on local economies. You will see through this speech how sports tourism can generate tax dollars that can actually be used to improve your city. So today I want to share with you a definition of sports tourism, the impact that it has nationwide as well as locally, and some of the future plans that the city of Edwardsville has in this area. So to start, I'd like to share with you a definition of sports tourism from the United Nations World Tourism Organization. They say that sports tourism is where sports and tourism overlap, and it's actually the fastest growing sector of tourism. More and more tourists are interested in sports activities during their trips, whether the trip is the main focus is for sports, or whether it's just something they do while they're in a certain venue. Now, locally, recently a report was shared with City Council in Edwardsville. It's the report for the State of the Industry report for 2021 for tourism economics and the Sports Events and Tourism Association. And I just want to share with you some of the numbers. There's $39.7 billion was associated with sports tourism spending in 2021. You got to put that into perspective. We were still in the throes of COVID in 2021. This led to a national or economic impact of $91.8 billion in local economies nationwide. What does that mean? That means restaurants. That means people who shop in shops and buy a t-shirt. That means people who stay in hotels. The definition that most local units use to define tourism is actually heads in beds. Now, I take a little bit of affront to that because I believe that spending is good, whether it be just for the day or whether you actually stay in a hotel that night. But that's how tourism is actually measured. So it's a little bit hard to know why people are staying at your hotels unless you directly survey them. But we do know that these teams bring families, they bring cheerleaders, they bring other siblings who need something to do during the game and around the game because, sometimes you get a rain out and you sit for a whole day, and sometimes you don't play as well as you want and you get some time off in between games. So there's it's a whole package to think about when you think about people who travel for sporting events. So to end, I want to share with you some of the things that Edwardsville has planned locally. So you might know that Edwardsville has recently opened the RP Lumber Ice Center. Now, while that is only one sheet of ice and is not going to facilitate a lot of tournaments, being able to be paired with the East Alton rink and the rinks on the Missouri side, we could definitely host an event here. Other things that are happening is Plummer Park. We have turf fields, and as a baseball mom, we used to travel a long way for turf fields because they can, handle a lot more rain than a dirt field. So they draw people in. And we are looking at expanding. We're looking at a second phase of Plummer Park. So there's a whole lot that is going on. Now, when we do that, we also have to know, and this was shared to us by the Great Rivers and Routes Tourism Director, Jason Troop, that Collinsville is looking to have an indoor facility. Springfield is looking to do more sports tourism, be a hub for that. And, according to the Illinois Sports Planning Guide, Illinois is a Tier 1, and this is from the website from Sports Planning Guide. And Illinois is considered a hub because it's easy to get to. You think about, wow, what does Illinois have to offer? Well, we're kind of in the middle of things, right? So what that does is facilitate area states being able to get to us pretty easily, maybe a little bit more cheaply. Illinois is considered a Tier 1 destination due to being centrally located and easily accessible by any mode of transportation. It's an integral part, and we've actually become the host of a tourism trade show, so to speak, called The Huddle, where we really try to sell ourselves as a travel destination. So today I've shared with you a little bit of what sports tourism is, how we measure tourism in general, and the impact that it can have. And I know sometimes that looks like traffic, that looks like longer waits at restaurants to local people. But I want to sell to you, and I want just to inform you of the fact that it could be good. You need to look at the pros and cons involved in sports tourism and plan your venues accordingly.